So we got a lot to cover today. This shocked everybody and why these people are suddenly panicking and Social Security is experiencing a significant emergency. Guys, recent times have literally seen a flurry of activity within the walls of Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, not all of it's boding very well for the average American. And many Americans at this point in time are literally in a panic. They're in a panic. And those who are living on fixed income like Social Security, SSI, SSDI, they could potentially be in for the worst shock of all. This could also include veterans. And changes are afoot in the United States credit markets. And this is suggesting a major shift in how investors are viewing things. And when I say investors, I'm talking about investors on Wall Street. I'm talking about those who are looking to retire, who have Social Security benefits, who have 401ks, who have Roth IRAs. And they're depending on these benefits. They're depending on the investment performances. And what the Fed is doing right now is having everything to do with how the rates of returns are for many investors. So the selling has started. And the economic tables have literally turned, guys. And it's a big deal for the housing market as well. And it's kind of like they finally got the memo. The first weekly outflow of U.S. Treasuries in over half a year has happened. And this is breaking all records of weekly inflows, guys. So you might be asking yourself, Ron, what does this even mean, right? Well, it signals a very big change. The era of higher for longer interest rates might very well be sinking in for investors. And in the midst of these shifting economic landscapes and government decisions, there are growing concerns about the state of Social Security. And don't even get me started if you're receiving SSI, SSDI. For many Americans, Social Security serves as a very crucial safety net in retirement. And number one, they don't ask you if you want to contribute to your Social Security, if you want to make contributions to Social Security on your paycheck. They just take the money from you. No one has been asked, do you want to contribute to Social Security? Because I think by now most people have their own perception of Social Security and how secure is Social Security, right? So if you don't think Social Security is very secure, then would you want to invest in it? Probably not. I mean, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to invest in something you don't believe in, right? So if you don't believe something's going to be there, why would you want to continue to make contributions into the fund? That's all I'm saying. So they need to make some serious concessions for Social Security. Now, for many Americans, Social Security, it does serve as a crucial safety net, right? Especially during retirement. However, this particular program, Social Security, has been facing a lot more challenges over the years, especially over the last 3 years. And if you guys are noticing, the rate of conversation surrounding Social Security has only been picking up. So, we can even say that this situation has been further exacerbated by this economic fallout of the pandemic, right? Pandemic only made things worse. I don't think many people are going to argue with me on that one. By the way, if you guys can hear me, just drop a quick message in the chat. Let me know that you guys are hearing me okay. I would totally appreciate that. And if you guys are enjoying the content, if you like content like this, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and drop a like for the video. I really appreciate that. So, the program, again, it's been facing mounting challenges over the years. And the whole fallout with the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, it really hasn't made anything. It really has not made things any better. It really hasn't. And, with an aging population and even fewer workers, thank you so much. Carolyn Reed, I can hear you on. Christo J, your sound is excellent quality. I really appreciate you guys for letting me know. Gary Edwards, I hear you. Also, man, thank you so much. Pam Ernest. So, we're facing mounting challenges. And again, the pandemic only made things worse. It further strained government resources. Now, some of this pain that we're experiencing was brought upon or brought about by our own government. Were they making the best decisions, or were the intentions of their decisions made in the best interest of the people? That remains to be debatable. I'll let you guys determine that. Do you think your government's making the best decision for you, or is your government and your elected officials making the best decision that benefits them? You guys let me know what you think about that. But here we have an aging population and fewer workers are contributing to the social security system, right? And of course, there's this looming fear that these social security funds are going to run dry faster than expected. That's the worst case scenario. And so this is leaving a lot of retirees worried about the stability of their future benefits, their future investments, because we all invested in the social security. We didn't have a choice. And this has sparked a lot of debates about potential social security reforms and, of course, the implications on the retirement security. So, as interest rates continue to rise and the government spending continues to climb, the fate of Social Security continues to be an even more pressing concern for millions of Americans. So, these are some serious issues. Now, in the past, year and a half, it's felt like investors are at odds with the Federal Reserve and they're refusing to buy into their talks of raising interest rates. But it looks like the skeptics are starting to quiet down a little bit. So what does all of this mean for interest rates in the future, and how high are they really going to how high are these interest rates really going to go? What's the long-term effect on inflation and the price of goods, the price of consumables in the grocery stores, in the Walmarts, in the Targets, in the Costco's, in the Sam's Clubs, right? Well, we're going to unpack some of the recent events in the U.S. credit markets. We're also going to take a look at some of the consequences of the government spending spree. And we're also going to break down what it all means for everybody, everyday folks like me and you, right? So first off, there's this recent stopgap bill, which everybody's raving about, which it's crap. It's crap, guys. All they're doing is kicking the can down the road. So officially, it's known as this Continuing Resolution Act, right? So they just call it the CR, Continuing Resolution. It's like the continuing of the bowl. Anyway, so this bill's like a Band-Aid for the government. And it's keeping it running for another 45 days or a little bit less than 45 days now. I think it's like November 15th or November 17th or something like that. And that's basically the next deadline for the next shutdown. And, but don't let the bureaucratic crap, the bureaucratic jargon fool you guys. There's always more to the story. So, dear Wes, hi Ron, is Ukraine getting the $107 billion from the proposed budget? Jesus. Let me get to that. So, sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with the comments and also hit some of these key points that I wanted to share with you guys. But you guys are getting fired up in the comments, and I don't blame you. Our elected officials give us a lot of ammunition. So anyway, one big thing that's missing from this bill is the extra aid for the Ukraine. So to answer your question, the extra aid for the Ukraine is not there. Now, this is only not providing extra aid for the Ukraine for the next 40 days or so. Now, what happens after 40 days, for all we know, we may cut them another $100 billion check, but we have to wait to get to that point to see. But here's the thing, guys, despite all this ongoing drama and the saber rattling in that part of the world, Congress decided not to chip in more money to the Ukraine, which is really shocking. But this decision got a lot of people worried about even more tension in the Ukraine, funded by your heart and mine, our hard-earned tax dollars. And remember, guys, the U.S. is already spending loads of money on its military, with expenses getting dangerously close to $1 trillion a year. So not only is consumer credit card debt hitting $1 trillion, military spending is approaching $1 trillion a year. So the stopgap bill is just tip of the iceberg when it comes to government spending. The government has no limits when it comes to spending. Ain't nothing gonna stop these guys. The government, the government. so so the Biden administration recently proposes jaw-dropping 6.9 trillion with a T dollar budget, right? And just kind of wrap your head around that number for a second, right? So it's a whopping 44% of what the US makes in an entire year. This level of spending is literally off the charts, and it's leaving a lot of us just pretty much scratching our heads. Are they trying to drive our economy off of a cliff? Like, is that their intention? So just go ahead and try to put this into perspective, guys. The last time we saw spending this out of control was during the times of, crises like World War II, the great financial crisis, and even the C-19 pandemic. Now, we're all, we're going all out with the excuse of a crisis. It's as if we've forgotten what fiscal restraint even means at this point. By the way, guys, we've got nearly 200 people in here tonight. Drop me some likes in the comments, please. I really appreciate the support, you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing. And also check to make sure you're still subscribed. I continuously get messages from you guys saying, Ron, I don't know what happened. Somehow I got mysteriously unsubscribed from your channel, guys. It's not me trying to boot you out. I love you guys. So I don't know why some of you guys are getting unsubscribed. I can't answer that, but just check to see if you still are, because for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe I'm sharing too much truth on here. I don't know. But to go ahead and fund all this spending, Uncle Sam, he's got to sell a lot of IOUs, also known as U.S. Treasuries, bonds, right? U.S. Treasury bonds. You guys have heard of those, right? Your grandparents gave you Treasury or bonds for Christmas. My grandmother gave us bonds for Christmas. My mom would buy bonds, and I do buy bonds too, or I quote unquote invest in U.S. bonds. The problem is they're flooding the market with these bonds, with these treasuries, with these IOUs. Week after week, there's a new auction. It's like a clearance sale where no one can clear the shelves fast enough. And this is drawing some serious concerns. The supply overload it's a big headache because, surprise, unfortunately, there's not enough buyers. I wonder why. Now, sure, hedge funds and big portfolios, they want in on this, right? But even they can't keep up with this flood of government debt. And to make matters worse, China, a major holder of U.S. debt, is now selling more treasuries than they're buying. And this should strike a chord. This is what is causing one of the reasons why many investors, many people are panicking. It's like your biggest customer going, thanks, but no thanks. It's not a good sign for global financial stability. And it's one of the reasons why many people are concerned and they're worried about the US dollar remaining the global reserve currency. What happens when the countries, the investors who are buying our bonds, they're buying our debt and allowing us to continue to function as a nation, decide that they don't want our bonds anymore? Like this is a very concerning thing. That's all I can say. I don't know what else to say. This is beyond concerning. Now, the biggest game changer, in recent weeks, it's the bond market. The bond market is the biggest game changer in weeks, folks. So after months of piling into U.S. Treasuries, investors pretty much did an about face. And this is alarming. Those who were holding out for lower interest rates finally threw in the towel. So what changed? Well, it seems like, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's recent press conference had some form of an impact on investors' decisions. So the Fed isn't exactly known for a clear and consistent message, but this time around, investors, they may have actually taken their words a lot more seriously. For months, guys, investors, they resisted the Fed's warnings of higher for longer. You've heard Fed Chair Jerome Powell saying higher for longer lately, right? So he's talking about the rates. He's talking about interest rates. But now they're starting to believe that it might actually happen. They were kind of like calling us bluff, so to speak. So, what's the big deal with rising interest rates? Well, it's not just a number on the screen. It actually affects my wallet. It affects your wallet. It's going to affect your kids' wallets if they're working, if they're investing. It's going to affect all of our futures, particularly those who are carrying any form of adjustable rate debt. If you have a mortgage, if it's fixed rate, you're probably good to go. But if you're looking for a mortgage, or if you need to refinance, or if you need to buy a car, or if you carry credit card debt and you're trying to get out of debt, these are the people who are most vulnerable. Now, when the government's borrowing costs go up, so do yours. All right. Now, I want you guys to, try to read between the lines here. Higher interest rates means higher mortgage rates, making home ownership even more expensive and potentially putting it out of reach entirely for some. Don't think that if you're a renter that you're safe, because if you're renting, you're probably renting from someone else who has a mortgage. Okay. So if holding costs for real estate investors go up, you can assume that your rent payment is going to go up too, because these real estate investors aren't just going to be nice and eat this increased cost and not raise rents. So just a heads up, guys. And of course, it doesn't stop there. You got student loans, credit card rates. These are also linked to interest rates. Now, if rates climb, it's definitely going to cost more for students to be able to pay off their loans, which is not great news, especially if you're already grappling with student loan debt. And of course, October being the very popular month that it is, added student loan payments to people's household budgets that were already pretty much people living paycheck to paycheck. What happens when you're living paycheck to paycheck already as it is, right? And then all of a sudden, surprise, hey, it's October. We're going to hit you with another $500 monthly bill. Mind you, you were already paycheck to paycheck before the $500 student loan bill started coming in. So now what happens? Now it's all of a sudden like, you better get that side hustle or online business or $500 per month raise off the ground quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because if you don't, if you're already living paycheck to paycheck, now you're suddenly in a negative. So what do? Well, if you got any kind of credit card, credit limit left over on your Amex card, American Express, maybe MasterCard, maybe your Visa card, maybe you can extend survival for a little bit longer. But let's just say your credit cards are already maxed out. Now what do? Well, maybe you start selling stuff if you have stuff left to sell. A lot of people, in fact, there's been a spike in pawn shops business. More people selling to the pawn shops than people buying from the pawn shops. What does that tell you? Right? And if you don't have anything else to sell and you've already lowered your expenses as low as you could go, like you cut back on your cable bill, you canceled all your subscriptions and whatnot, you already did a garage sale, you've already emptied out the attic, like what's left to do, right? Well, if you don't know how to increase your income, heaven forbid you lose your job or your hours get cut. Maybe you're working retail. I used to work retail for years, and man, retail hours are so unreliable. Like you get you're full time if you're working. I forget. I don't even know what they call it nowadays. Full time for me would be like 40 hours, but in retail world, they were like, oh, you're full time if you're working more than 32 hours, which is crap, right? So number one, in retail, a lot of times you can't even know how much you're making per month because your hours fluctuate. You might get 40 hours one week, 32 hours the next week. Then another week they might ask you to work 45, 50 hours because they're short staffed or because it's a holiday season and whatnot. But here's the thing: if you work retail, you're going to be screwed in like it's October 8th right now. You're going to be screwed in about 2.5 months. Call it two months and 3 weeks. And the reason I say this is because I have worked retail for many years and it sucked. Retail does suck. To me, it was just really boring. Dealing with angry customers and whatnot. But anyway, what really sucks is that come January, every retail store I've ever worked at and I worked at several, you get your hours cut. Like everyone gets their hours cut, and then they like reset their hours because basically all these retail stores knows that, okay, after Christmas, all of that demand to purchase is going to die. And so it takes them like, 3, 4 months before that consumer demand starts building back up. So basically from like January, February, March, your hours are going to suck if you happen to work retail. I know I went on a rant on a tangent, but if you find yourself in that situation, trust me, I feel you. I've been there. Somebody had just said in the comments, thank God I'm out of debt. And I think that should definitely be what most people try to do. Catalia, is it Catalia? I see her name in here all the time. Catalia says, thank God I'm debt free. I know a lot of people who are selling whatever they can. I recommend having a side hustle. I recommend having a side hustle too. I recommend having a side hustle. I feel like every American should take full advantage of the benefits of living in America. And one of the greatest benefits you have is being able to start and run a home-based business. And, I'd be hiring my kids. I hired my kid, right? My kid is like my first employee, right? Like teach them while they're young and, have control over your income, minimize your personal impact to these interest rate shifts. If you don't owe money, I forget it how Dave Ramsey says it all the time. The borrower is slave to the lender. And I'm not trying to get all biblical on you guys, but I'm just saying, like, it's true. If you've ever had any type of significant debt like I have, and then you paid it off, there is a certain level of peace that is undeniable. So, I'm not telling you guys what to do with your money. I'm just saying that for me and for my family, getting out of debt was one of the most rewarding things, and it was absolutely worth the sacrifice, right? So basically, if these interest rates climb, it's going to cost more for students to pay off their loans, which is not great news if you're already grappling with student loan debts, right? Credit card users are going to feel the pinch as well, because carrying the credit card balances are going to become more expensive. And what also happens, a lot of people don't realize this, is your minimum payments on your credit cards are based on the balance of the credit card. Your minimum payment is based on your credit card balance plus your interest rate. So if your interest rate goes up and you're not aggressively paying that credit card balance down, your minimum payment could theoretically go up. So be prepared for that. So this could lead to even more people defaulting on their credit cards, causing financial headaches all around. So, of course, you might be wondering, who is this Bill Ackman guy, right? So Bill Ackman, he's kind of a big deal investor, and, he's got a pretty gloomy outlook for the bond market and for long-term interest rates. Night 2000 says, end of the world coming. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Let's try to keep our heads above water and try not to panic here. So Bill Ackman's not betting on bonds. In fact, he's shorting bonds. Bill Ackman is predicting that the 30-year rate, which is hovering now around 4%, will skyrocket to a jaw-dropping 5.5%. And he thinks that this could very well happen a lot sooner than expected. Now, what makes Bill Ackman's prediction even scarier is that he might be onto something here. So the 30-year fixed rate, it's inching closer and closer to this 5% mark. Now, once it crosses this threshold, it could very well just take off like a rocket. And that 5% level, it's like a mental barrier. And once it's breached, brace yourself for a wild ride in long-term rates. So investor sentiment is literally starting to shift in response to a world where interest rates have been artificially low for ages. The Fed controls all of this, pumping out all that free money. Now it's coming back to roost. So for many, getting a 30-year fixed rate mortgage below 4% was like a once in a lifetime deal. In fact, I got to be honest, we were incredibly lucky. We pulled it off twice. We've got 2 mortgages right now, both sitting under 3%. We're in the twos for 30-year fixed rate mortgages. And it's like a pipe dream today. You can't get 3%. You can't get 2% interest rates. But the world has changed. Economic dynamics, inflation worries, global tensions have pretty much all created a perfect storm and created more of an unpredictable landscape. So, technical stuff also plays a role in pushing interest rates even higher. With tons of selling going on in the bond market, certain indicators can accelerate this rate hike, right? It's a perfect storm. And it's caught many investors off guard, showing just how quickly and how tricky things have become. So, what does this all mean for me and you, right? Well, the recent events in the bond market and, with government spending should definitely serve as a wake-up call, guys. The decision to pass a stopgap bill without more Ukraine aid, coupled with excessive government spending, raises a lot of red flags about our nation's long-term financial health. We can't keep doing this, guys. As interest rates rise, it's not just about numbers. It's about how much more you're willing to pay for your mortgage, for your student loans, and for your credit cards. You got prominent investors like Bill Ackman and his dark prediction of a 5.5% 30-year Treasury rate. This should pretty much make us all sit up and take notice. I mean, we're stepping into uncharted territory, folks, and ignoring the signals from the bond market could literally have a multitude of serious consequences. As we navigate these uncertain times, it is essential to be prepared for higher interest rates and, of course, their potential impacts on our financial well-being. So one of the things that I have been doing for years is financially preparing, eliminating debt. If you have very low fixed rate interest debt, a mortgage, something like that, me personally, I'm not in a big hurry to pay it off. In fact, I'm in no hurry to pay it off. Building cash piles, stockpiling cash, preparing, getting ready, right? And also looking for opportunities. There are always opportunities. And I want you guys to not live in fear. Don't live in fear. Don't listen to these warnings and freak out. Investing in gold and silver is a viable option. Thank you, Catalia. I see you. But don't live in fear. Keith Kennedy says, we're already bankrupt. What does any of this matter? Well, I mean, if you don't find value in what we're discussing, that's fine. You can leave. You don't have to hang out here. But to me, if you file bankruptcy, that's not the end of the world. If you file bankruptcy, technically, theoretically, you have a fresh start and you can build from there. So I wouldn't, there's always a silver lining. You just have to find it. Sometimes a little harder to find at times, but it's always there. So I would definitely be looking to get out of debt. Certainly any kind of high interest rate debt, I'd be looking to get out of that as quickly as possible, whether that means working overtime at your job, get a second job. I've worked 2 full-time jobs personally for 2 years before. And while doing that, I worked overtime every week on one of them. So I know what it is to work my butt off, but with a purpose. And I feel that, like, with any sacrifice becomes easier when you have a strong why, right? So my why was I wanted to protect my family and make sure that we were in a good financial position. So my why was strong enough to allow me to work 92 hours a week, every week, to get out of debt and to build an investment portfolio and to be able to stockpile cash. What's your why? If your why is big enough, you can accomplish anything. And this is one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of creating home-based businesses. And there are a lot of home-based businesses that generate a significant amount of money. And this could pretty much give a lot of people a fresh start. Now, of course, if you guys want to learn more about how to generate income from a home-based business, definitely hit me up in the comments section down below. And let me know if you are interested in learning more about that, because I can definitely share a lot more experience, information, ideas, and helpful information on how to get you guys going if you want to go that direction. But again, the decisions made by our government today, they're definitely going to be shaping the economic landscape for years to come. And it's essential to stay informed and vigilant in the face of all these different challenges. By the way, if you guys are just tuning in, feel free to drop a quick like for the video. I totally appreciate that. And also consider subscribing to the channel. I do want to kind of quickly get through the comments. So Keith Kennedy says, I drove across Kansas in 1973. Very flat. Okay. Responding to Tashi Barnett. Hello from Topeka, Kansas. Anti-gov. Appreciate you checking in. Let's see. Christo J. Sailor Spirit is done. Sailor Spirit. What are you done? What are you done with? Sean R says, I'm interested in knowing more. I'm assuming you're interested in learning more about the small business and home-based business opportunities. Ryan James, just tuning in. We talking about World War III? Well, hopefully we don't have World War III. That would be horrible. That would really, really, really be horrible. But I really appreciate the comments. I really appreciate the support, guys. It's time we pay attention. The government spending spree and the shift in the bond markets are definitely sending some very clear signals. And the days of ultra low interest rates may unfortunately be behind us. And we may never see them again. We should definitely brace ourselves for the financial impact. So it's crucial to make very informed, sound decisions about our financial futures and to be prepared for a world where borrowing money becomes significantly more expensive. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys hanging out. I hope you guys enjoyed today's conversation. Appreciate you guys' support in the comments, and I'm going to see you guys in a few hours. Good night.